Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat.
Delicious things to eat.
The popcorn can't be beat. The sparkling drinks are just dandy. The chocolate bars and the candy. So let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat. Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat.
It's intermission time, folks, so hurry, hurry, hurry. Step right over to our refreshment center for the most extravagant array of refreshment goodies ever assembled under one roof. Enjoy breathtaking, mouth-watering goodies, everything from a snack to a delicious full meal. At our refreshment center, you'll find a large variety of goodies to satisfy your hunger, your thirst, or your sweet tooth. So hurry, hurry, hurry. Visit our refreshment center now. The show starts in 5 minutes. The show starts in 4 minutes. The show starts in 3 minutes. The show starts in 2 minutes. The show starts in 1 minute. And now, on with the show.
Okay. Do we have sound now? Man, I think that encoder sometimes has a mind of its own. Sometimes it'll do that. Yeah, I noticed that. The encoder did a little bloop, and the next thing we know, they turned the sound off. Oh, my goodness. Okay, so, can you hear me now? Okay, I'm not going to do a Verizon commercial. I just want to make sure. Okay, good. So, we get to start all over again. Hey, okay. So, let's see. I'm not sure when the thing clicked out, but let's go back and let's see who we have in the chat room. We have Soshi, Donald, Marilyn, we have Colleen, I think I said Donald. Let's see, we also have Veronica and David, and we have to scroll back to find all the people. Marshall, let's see, we have... There's Olga. Olga is here. Good to have you here. Okay. So, and Simon. Okay. I think we are caught up now. Okay. Yeah, okay. So, I know that we turned the microphone on and it was working at the very beginning, but like I said, the encoder did a little bloop. And the next thing we know, there's no sound turned on. Okay. So we keep an eye on that this time, okay? You gonna be my engineer? Yeah, I will be your engineer. Okay, keep an eye on that microphone. Okay. So, we start over again. Here the first story, again for the second time tonight, is called The New Shul. Boy, you know, they didn't miss all my witty remarks at the very beginning of the show. I know, I guess you'll just have to do it some other time. It's a shame. They were pretty good, too. Well, I don't know if I would say pretty good, but, yeah, they were okay, I guess. So, well, okay, we get on with the stories. Okay, so, the new shul. There were many different kinds of souls in the wonderful world of Helm. For example, Moshe, the washerman, was a good soul. He could not say no to anyone. Regardless of what they would ask, Moshe would smile and say, "Don't be foolish. Of course I can do it." His wife, on the other hand, was quite the opposite. No matter what anyone would ask, she would say, "Absolutely not. I don't have time or the desire." He always said yes, and she always said no, but they were a happy couple. And so one day, the villagers decided to build a new shul. When they came to Moshe and asked him for a contribution, he smiled and said, "I will gladly pay for the whole thing. What does it mean, money?" The committee was astonished. They thanked him and left. The minute the door was closed, his wife shouted at him, "Let me pay for the whole thing you had to say. Couldn't you just say no?" "I don't know how to," he sighed. "Okay, I will teach you," she exclaimed. "I want you to go to the committee this minute, and regardless of what they ask you, you must say, 'Absolutely not.'" To make certain he did not change his mind, he stuffed cotton in his ears. "Now, regardless of what they ask you, you will not hear. When you see their lips move, you will say, 'Absolutely not.'" Moshe left his wife with the cotton in his ears and caught up with the committee. They were pleased to see him. "You know," one of them began, "we were just thinking. It isn't fair for you to pay the whole thing. At least let us pay half, and you will pay half." Moshe couldn't hear a word. He simply smiled and said as usual, and said, "Absolutely not." The committee was overjoyed that he had not reneged. Then they said, then at least we can make you president of our new shul." He smiled once more and repeated mechanically, "Absolutely not." "Look at this amazing person. He gives, yet he seeks no honors. He is truly a saint," they said to each other. "Then we will make a dinner for you. That is certainly the least we can do." As soon as Moshe saw their lips move, he shouted, "Absolutely not!" "Ah," said the head of the delegation after Moshe left, "if we can't honor him, then at least we can do is honor his wife. I am certain this will give him great joy. Of course, every man wants to see his wife honored." And so the members of the committee set about preparing the plans for honoring Moshe, the washerman's wife, who certainly did not deserve the honor. When Moshe returned home, he told his wife, he said absolutely not to everything they asked him. "You did well, my husband," his selfish wife exclaimed. "Now they will have more respect for you. Before this, they only made believe they like you because you gave in to whatever they asked. Now that you are refusing, they will have a new respect. You see, people respect people who say no." From that day on, whenever Moshe left the house, his wife put cotton in his ears so he could not hear any of the crest people would make of him. And so a few days later, he met the committee members who were planning the dinner for his wife so that he could share in her happiness. "We decided to have roast beef and fancy vegetables for the main dish," they said to him, but he still could not hear and exclaimed, "Absolutely not," just as his wife told him to say whenever anyone from the committee spoke with him. "Oh," said the head of the committee, "we understand you don't want us to spend too much. All right, then we will have plain chicken." "Absolutely not," exclaimed Moshe, still unable to hear what they were saying. Even chicken? They questioned. However, they did not want to anger him. Well then, we will have a beautiful spread of cooked vegetables, they said. Absolutely not, Moshe declared once more. He then turned and walked away, overjoyed that he had once more been able to say no, when before he had always said yes. A short time later, one of the members of the committee came to Moshe's house and told his wife that the committee was going to honor her with a dinner for the gracious gift that her husband had given for the new shul. His wife was a very vain person, smiled, and readily accepted the honor. I will be more than happy to be your guest of honor, she declared. But of course, she was in for a surprise. The night of the dinner honoring his wife arrived. She put on all her finery to make an impression on all the people in Chelm. For this occasion, his wife said, "Make certain you keep the cotton in your ears, but I do not want you to speak. Just nod your head in approval, because they will be saying nice things about me. All you have to do is nod your head in agreement." At the dinner, they will not ask for any favors. When it came time for dinner, the head of the committee came over to Moshe and declared, "Since you refuse to let us really prepare the kind of dinner we felt that your wife deserved, and since we must serve something, would a little dry bread and water meet with your approval?" Moshe could hear nothing. He simply nodded in approval, just as his wife asked him to do. When dinner is served was announced, everyone came into the great hall and sat down at their tables. The neatly uniformed waiters began bringing in trays covered with shiny silver coverware. When they removed the covers, all that was on the tray was a piece of dry bread and water. Moshe, seeing this, was now certain he had made a wise choice in giving his money to build the shul, because, he believed, the congregation was so poor that even when they wanted to honor his wife, all they could raise was a few coins to pay for the dry bread and water. He quickly pulled the cotton from his ears and announced to the dismay of his starving wife, "Not only will I give enough money to build our new shul, I will give additional money so we can build 2 shuls. That way, if any of us has a fight with the other and do not want to see the other in shul, they will have another shul to go to." Moshe's wife fainted, but no one even noticed, as all the people of Helm were cheering, "Generous Moshe!" It's the old joke, isn't it? Yeah, it is. Yeah. Yeah, we have, if you get stranded on a desert island, what does a Jew do first? He builds 2 shuls. One that he davens in, and the other one he wouldn't step foot in. Okay. So anyway, okay. So there is, it is kind of appropriate for what happened earlier. Yes, it is kind of appropriate. Poor Moshe couldn't hear anything, and these poor people couldn't hear anything either. But they were not nodding their heads, though. Okay, so anyway, we move on to the next story. This story is called The Painter. Once upon a time, in the silly world of Helm, a wagon pulled to a halt in the town square. The man stood on his wagon and announced, "I am the world's greatest painter. I can paint with such reality that you would swear it was alive." Everyone began to laugh. "I will prove it to you," he shouted. "I will not take a single kopeck from any one of you unless he agrees the likeness is absolutely perfect." And so the town folk ran to the Sage of Helm. We need an echo for that. Yeah, it would sound better. The Sage of Helm, 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 Helm. Okay, anyway. "If he does not charge for the portrait," the sage exclaimed, then we have nothing to lose. "I will even volunteer to see if he is telling the truth." And so it was. The painter set up his paints in the house of the Sage of Helm, 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 Helm. "No one must watch me work," he exclaimed. "My process is so secretive. Only when the picture is finished shall I show it to you." The painter toiled at his easel all through the day. Then at night, when everyone was asleep, he replaced his ugly canvas with a perfectly clear framed mirror. In the morning, he turned to his host and said, "I worked all through the night to finish your portrait from memory. Now, before I part the curtain, I want you to stand in this spot. Take a deep breath and stand absolutely still. I will pull the curtains in front of the picture for just a minute so you can admire the painting. These paints fade in the light, so you can only view it for a few seconds. This painting is so unique, it will seem to be something different to everyone who looks at it." The Sage of Helm stood on the spot where the artist had placed him. Then the artist pulled the string and the curtain parted. There, perfectly framed, was the mirror, and the old sage looking straight at the mirror, absolutely motionless, at his own likeness. The artist quickly drew the curtain back over the portrait. "Is that a portrait or what?" he said rhetorically. The sage stood in amazement. "Indeed, I have never seen anything so perfect. It even looked as if I was breathing. Here is your money. Indeed, this is the most perfect painting I have ever seen." The artist took the money and he rode away. As he rode away, he said to the sage, "Never leave the curtain apart for more than a few seconds, because the paints will fade, okay?" And that's the last anybody heard from him. Okay. So this is the next story, which is called The Painting. The Painting? That's what it says. We just read The Painting. I know, but this is a different. Well, you think they could have said The Painting Part 2, or Painting the sequel, or Painting the prequel, or something like that, so we would know which one was which. Oh, man. Okay. So anyway, we go on with the story. The Painting again. The wealthiest man in Helm said he would give a bag of gold to the artist who painted the most exciting picture he had ever seen. When the villagers of Helm saw the announcement, they shrugged their shoulders. "There are no artists in Helm," they said. "We are an industrious people. We are too busy working in the fields. Who has time for painting pictures?" Although there was no artist in Helm, there was one poor soul who the Helmites considered a fool. Okay, I'm just going to pause there for a second and let you ponder that. People in Helm considered this guy a fool. Okay, we go on now. Okay. In an effort to play a joke on the rich man and have a little fun with the poor soul, some of the Helmites decided to send the poor soul to the rich man's house, supposedly as an artist. When some of the Helmites objected to hurting the poor soul, one said, "Fear not, brothers, at least he will be wined and dined for a period of weeks at the expense of the rich man who will think him to be an artist. When he discovers he is no artist, he will simply send him home. And so our poor friend will at least have enjoyed the luxury of fine food." And so they bundled up the poor soul and sent him on a donkey cart with a set of paints and a canvas. When he arrived at the rich man's house, he placed his donkey in the barn. In the great hall, where the paintings were to be displayed, there were other fine artists working diligently on their own paintings. Each was trying to produce a masterpiece to win the bag of gold. The poor soul simply sat down at the huge table and began to gorge himself with food. By the end of the third week, the poor soul decided to go to the barn, where he left his paints and canvas on the donkey cart. As he started to remove his paints, the donkey accidentally kicked over the paints, which spilled all over the canvas. As the poor soul tried to comfort his frightened donkey, the donkey, understanding, began to swish his tail back and forth with apologetic love. The canvas was a mess. The poor soul tried to scrape off the paint with a few reeds of glass, but it was hopeless. He sadly took the spoiled canvas into the great hall, where the paintings were to be judged, and covered it with a cloth. The rich man entered the hall carrying the bag of gold. The first artist pulled back the cloth covering his canvas. It was a beautiful mountain scene. The second artist's painting revealed a child at play. The third showed a beautiful flower. Then it came time for the poor soul to show his painting. He embarrassingly pulled the curtain aside that covered the canvas. The rich man stared at the picture and gasped, "This is indeed the most exciting picture I have ever seen." As the bag of gold was handed to the poor soul, he smiled meekly and whispered to the rich man, "Excuse me, sir, you have my picture upside down." And so, the poor soul returned to Helm with the reputation of being the finest painter in all of Helm. For years, he would have his donkey spill paint on a canvas and then try to remove the paint with grass. and each was a masterpiece in its own right. In fact, some of his works hang in many modern museums and galleries to this very day. I think that's a comment on modern art. What do you think? I think you might be right. Yeah, it kind of sounds like that, doesn't it? Yes, it does. Okay, so that is where we left off at the break. And now we are at the end of the show for today, so at least you didn't miss anything. We got to hear all these stories. Okay, so I want to thank you all for being here and for putting up with the silence, just like poor Moshe with the cotton in his ears. Anyway, glad to have you here. Do not forget that on Wednesday night is the Torah study in depth with Rabbi A. And there is no services this Shabbat because the Rebbitzin is having surgery on her foot and she will be laid up. So the rabbi, be a good guy, huh? Yes, especially after forgetting your anniversary. Okay, will you quit harping on that? I'm not harping, I am just saying. After you miss the anniversary, the least you can do is wait on your poor wife. I plan to. Very good then. Okay. So, don't forget, next Monday night we will be back. Hopefully we will turn the microphone on and there won't be any monkey business with that. And we will continue on with the silly stories of Helm. Until then, dear friends, Laila Tov.